Hi everybody, welcome once again to Food for the Soul. This is Potty Padre. I've been talking to you how much I enjoy cooking one pot meals. I think this is a great way to cook for families, in which you put your meat and your vegetables together, or your vegetables and your pulses together, just doing combinations of a large pot, enough for everybody. And this is really for the mothers and fathers who cook and just want to get done with it, but yet put out a great meal at the end of the day. I generally cook, I'm making this for 3 people into 2 meals. I cook maybe something else at the end of the day just to complement the meal that is left over from lunch. But this is what I've got for you today. I've got cluster beans, or what we call gawar. This is about 500 grams of it. I've cut them rather large. If you look, they're almost the size of my thumb. Normally when I cut vegetables, I would cut them extremely fine, and that really adds to the beauty of the dish. I've got about 500 grams of mince, whatever mince that you'd like, mutton, pork, choose anything that you really feel comfortable with. I have 300 grams of onions that are minced, about 3 large tomatoes that I've chopped into large dices, and then I made a mixture. Now I've begun making my own masalas rather than use ready-made ones. Straight away you can see the beauty in this color. What has gone into it? Kashmiri chilli, Byadagi chilli, a little turmeric, 1 teaspoon of jeera, 2 teaspoons of garlic. Now I used 10 chilies in total. I used 7 of the Kashmiri chilies, 3 of the Byadagi chilies. Now I want to show you the difference in the size, yeah, and also see the thickness. And if I were to smell this, there's a distinct smell that you get in the Byadagi chili. This gives you heat and it gives you color. This just gives you a beautiful red color. So a combination of this. But just to show you, I kept these Ramnad Mundu chilies. It comes from the district of Ramnad in Tamil Nadu. It's also called Gundu because it means round, I'm told, round and fat. These have a thin skin, but these are really good for chutneys. They're very good for sambars, temperings, etc. I'm not using them, I just wanted to show you the difference. And then I've kept some green chilies, so in case I need to spice up my dish a bit. These are the Jwala chilies you get in Gujarat, Maharashtra, just about anywhere else. What else do I have? So I ground this completely. I've got 1 tablespoon of ginger garlic paste. I have kept some pepper powder coarsely, about a teaspoon, in case I need it. I've got bay leaves. Look, I'm extremely generous with curry leaves, so should you. You can put curry leaves at the beginning of a dish, at the end of the dish. I've got about 15 peppercorns, 3 cardamoms, 4 cloves, and some amount of fresh coriander. Notice I've cleaned the fresh coriander, and I'm going to chop the coriander till the bitter end, till the root here, because all the flavor is here. Most of your flavor is in your stock, so please don't throw your stocks out. They bring about great amount of flavor. I'm now going to make this very simple dish for you, but it's extremely tasty. So some oil. Please feel free to use oil as much as you want. I'm using a little more today because I would like to see the oil a little float on this dish. So I'm going to heat. I heated the pan already. I've got the oil nice and hot, and now I'm going to introduce the cardamom and the cloves along with the peppercorns first. You must understand what this process does. It releases the oils which are in these spices, and it adds flavor. Often people don't like this in the dish, so after the flavors have been released, they take it out put it in a small muslin bag, and then they reintroduce it so that later on you can just take it off and get rid of it. So here's what I'm going to do. Peppercorns go in, and you can see how immediately they begin to swell in size. I'm going to add the bay leaf, and now I'm going to add the curry leaf. You can add curry leaf either the beginning or the end, but remember one thing with curry leaves is whenever you put them into a pan, even if they are drip dry, this is what you're going to get, so be careful. There you go, it's like an explosion every time. And that's even if your pan is, your leaves are drip dry, they will always explode. So don't worry about it, but just be warned. And I'm going to add 300 grams of finely chopped onions. If you don't have a weighing scale, that's fine. A large onion is roughly about 100 grams. Now you might ask me, why do I use so many onions? Onions bring a beautiful sweetness to the dish, and it also gives the dish bulk. Besides, the flavor of cooked onions is just fantastic. So never be afraid to add things like onions and curry leaves. There's no such thing like it's too much in a dish. Just cover it for about 2 minutes. Just after 3 minutes or 2 minutes, just give it a quick twist. You want the onions to be translucent. This is what you mean by translucent. You just break it down, take off the rawness, and that's all you need to do. Some dishes might call for onions to be brown, and there's a reason why, because browned onions add to the color of the dish. So tomatoes, and what you really want to do is rend these tomatoes down, just break them down a bit. Remember that what tomatoes do is that they bring in a nice sourness to the dish. So if ever you don't have tomatoes, they also bring in bulk. But if you don't have tomatoes, you can use anything else that is a souring agent. You will notice that in recipes that call for curd very often, they will drop tomatoes because curd sometimes tends to be sour. Whenever you use curd in your food, make sure it's always sweet. Now you can cook both tomatoes and curds together, but some dishes will drop one or the other. But here we go, and I'm going to let this cook for about 2 minutes so that the tomatoes are completely broken down. So we have allowed our tomatoes to cook for about 2 minutes. The reason why you cover a dish is you allow the steam to just do the cooking for you. Otherwise it just dissipates, and you want to rend down the tomatoes a bit. You can see the dish is nice and moist. So I'm going to add the mixture of turmeric, jeera, coriander, and remember my combination of red chillies. Now this may seem like a lot of masala, but remember that we have totally half a kilo of mince, half a kilo of vegetable in the form of gawar. Then you have about half a kilo of onion and tomato. So you need to make sure that the spices are sufficient for this dish. And that's the reason why I've also kept pepper powder on standby and also some green chillies. So here you go. Now at this stage you don't want to burn the dry masalas. I'm going to do two things. Add the ginger garlic paste and give it a little bit of a stir. There you go. So if you get yourself a nice pan like this, it's really easy to cook. It's got a great handle. It's non-stick, though not the best to use non-stick, but hey, it works for big dishes like this. Small earthenware pots, unless you have a large one, will not hold such quantities. So what I want to do is, I want to cook this masala. I'm going to add water gradually. First a little, and the water will prevent the masala from burning. Dried masalas burn very quickly. Also at this stage, I'm going to add about a teaspoon of salt. And as I've always said to you, salt brings down the temperature of the masala, and that's why I introduce it at this point of time, so that the powdered masalas don't burn out. And you can see how beautiful this looks, just the red chili taking over. And here's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to add water, about half a cup to 3/4 of a cup. And what I want to do is, I want this to cook. And I'm going to leave this with a lid over it on a medium fire for the next 5 minutes. So I'm going to open this now. I wanted the masala to cook, and there you go. You can see it still has this lovely red color, and there's oil floating on the top, which is an indicator to you that your spices, your mixture has cooked well. Now, at this stage, I'm going to introduce the mince. And remember that the mince is going to release its own liquid. You're going to get water being released from this. So I just and add just a little water to this, and I'm going to let this cook for another 2 to 3 minutes. And we'll check this later. So I have left the mince cooking for roughly 3 to 5 minutes. Let's see how it looks. And there you go. Now, if you just like a mince dish, add a little peppercorn, green chillies and coriander, and you're done. That will give you a mince dish with gravy. If you like it drier, just allow the water to evaporate, and there you can see it. So what I'm going to do is, I need to continue because I want to do a 1-pot dish. I've tasted this and I realized it can do with about a teaspoon of pepper, literally 3 green chilies, and I'm going to add now the gawar or cluster beans. And this is a great way also to get children to start eating their vegetables. Now, vegetables, each one of them cooks rather at different times. So the more hardy vegetables that you have will cook for a longer period of time, and vegetables such as capsicums don't require much time. So there you go. I'm just going to mix this, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to check for salt, as you should always during your dish or the process of cooking, and I'm going to let this cook for the next 7 minutes on a low heat, and then I will be done with my dish. So just drop the heat. Okay, so I'm going to now just finish the dish. We've allowed it to cook. There you go. So you can see the mince and the gawar is cooking well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cover this again and let the cluster beans continue to cook for a while. Remember, cluster beans have a slight bitterish taste, but it adds beautifully to the dish. So here's how I'm going to finish the dish for you. I've heated some oil, and when it's nice and super hot, you can do this as an additional thing, a teaspoon of jeera. And remember, just I want to showcase these chilies a bit. You don't really need to do this, but I'm just, since we had the chilies out, there you go. I'm just allowing it to get all. And make sure you've got all the goodness. Turn off the fire. All the lovely goodness in this. You can take a little of the water. There you go. And then you give this a little bit of a stir. Add in your coriander. And your dish is done.